Hello 108 students, Mr. McHugh back here with you. My Boston Terrier Gizmo, he ditched me, so I'm here all alone going solo here with you. Going to continue working on 6.5, solving quadratic equations, page 2 for this video. And we got a couple variations, but always keep in mind in these problems, you got to train your eyes and look for that squared term. As soon as you see that, you know you're dealing with a quadratic. There's a couple different flavors to it, but you do have a quadratic equation because of the exponent is a 2. Okay, now here's an example 3. They talk about the quadratic equation missing the third term or the c term, and don't forget, its quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. First term, second term, third term, sometimes we call it the middle term, and of course the last term. A couple different names for it. What if you do not have a constant here? Here's an example, 4z squared minus 20z equals 0. And you go, how in the heck am I supposed to solve this? How am I supposed to combine like terms? You can't. Z squared and z of the first are different terms. You cannot combine them. You do not have a third term, so you cannot reverse FOIL and factor it. And then you're like, oh my word, what am I going to do? And then hopefully like a lightning bolt it strikes you. What's the first rule of factoring? And you are supposed to train in your brain, look for and pull out the GCF. Do you have one? 4 and a 20. The answer is yes. Pull out a 4. Look at the z squared and a z. You pull out a z with the lowest exponent. So there's z to the first. And now you got something to work with. 4z times the quantity, what do you have to multiply to get 4z squared? A z and a minus 5 to get 20z. Now that you've got that, you have two factors. 4z is 1, I'll put the parentheses around it, and a second factor is z minus 5. Now you go back and apply the zero factor property. Take each factor, 4z and z minus 5, you don't have to put the parentheses here, but I'll do it for overkill, set them equal to 0. Why? Because inside these parentheses you got to get a value of 0. Something times something, you got to have a 0 in one of these to produce a 0. Okay, I know I'm going overboard with it, but I want you to drill that into your head. So take 4z, set it equal to 0, divide by 4, z equals 0. And this guy, add 5 to both sides, z equals 5. Your solution is the set 0, 5. Okay, not too bad once you see a couple of these here with missing the third term. What happens in example 4? They try to mess with you a little bit and they say you're missing the bx term. Oops, sorry, let me just scroll up here a little bit. Bx is what? Your middle term. You're missing the middle term. So let's go down and look at this. So here's an example, 3m squared minus 108 equals 0. Okay, now I look at that and I go, well, I don't know. I know I could isolate the 3m squared pretty quick if I added 108 to both sides. So if I add a 108, I'm left with 3m squared equals 108. I'm like, well, I don't know. Isolate m squared, I would divide both sides by 3. I'd be left with 1m squared, which you don't really have to show. 108 divided by 3 is 36. And now I'm like, oh, okay. Got 36. What times what equals 36? Now a lot of you guys will see this straight ahead here. It's plus or minus 6, but algebraically you're supposed to take the square root on both sides. You're maintaining balance on the equations, doing the same operation. Square root of m squared is m, because m times m is m squared. 36, you get plus or minus, and you've got two solutions. MyMathLab, you've got to put the smaller number first, and then you put the 6 in brackets. Okay, I noticed my notes. I say this is a little different approach from the book, but try my way. It's a little easier. Okay, make life as simple as possible for you. Okay, now example 5. Going to take us a little bit of work here. It says translate into a quadratic equation. Okay, now you see this problem, and okay, I'll be honest with you, you might freak out just a tad. You see this, two binomials being multiplied equals another set of parentheses, and you're like, I don't see no quadratic equation in this. Now, the first thing to help you out here is focus on the left-hand side. What would you do if you saw two binomials being multiplied? Answer? I'm hoping you all said to do FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. So you turn around and do that. Okay, sometimes in algebra it's okay to do a step you know you're allowed to do and then re-look at the problem and see if the solution process hits you a little better. So as soon as I start doing FOIL, I see 2 cubed times q and I see 2 cubed squared. Boom, what popped up? You have a quadratic equation. There you go. Do the outer 2x, do the inner, 2q, do the inner 1q. 1 times 1 is 1. Over here, what property class? Distributive, of course. 2 minus 2q plus 6. Okay, there you go. Look at that and reevaluate and say, what can I do to simplify things? Always look on the left-hand side. Combine like terms always simplifies, doesn't it? 2q plus 1q is 3q. Now look at this real quick. 2q, that's not to the third. That's a mistake. Cross that out in your notes. Put a square. That was a mistake on my part. Apologize about that. Over here on the right-hand side, I left it alone. Okay, I came back, I look at this and I see 2q squared plus 3q plus 1. I see other like terms on the other side. If I moved them all over to the left, what would happen to the right hand side? I'd get that big fat 0. So that's exactly what I did. Minus 2 on both sides, plus 2q on both sides, minus 6 on both sides. Draw my line, add your columns up. 2q, not what though, cubed, not what class, not cubed, but squared. Okay. 3q plus 2 cubed, 5 cubed, 5q, blah, blah. 1 minus 2 minus 6 turns out to be minus 7 equals 0. Okay, now you've got it in a form where you know you got it licked. What I mean by that, you have got a trinomial. It's in quadratic form, standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Instead of an x, you got a cubed. No biggie. Set parentheses, factor, reverse FOIL, you know the drill. 2q and a q. I look at negative 7. I put a plus 7 and a minus 1. Double check, make sure your outer and the inner add up to be 5q. Then class, what happens? Take each parentheses. You got to make sure you factor that correctly, and then you do what with them? Zero factor property. That's right. Take each set of parentheses, set them equal to 0. Why? Come on, you should know this now. Inside each of these parentheses, you got to get a value 0, so that when you multiply by 0 times anything else always produces 0. Okay, you got the drill now. Take 2q plus 7 minus 7 on both sides, divide by 2, and you get negative 7 halves for one value. Over here, add 1 to both sides, q equals 1. Okay, and you've got your answer set here. Sometimes they might want that as an improper fraction, so watch My Math Lab and watch the little blue parentheses when they tell you what goes in there. Okay, I think we've done a good job here, class. So I'm going to sign off here on page 2. Going to keep working on 6.5, and I will see you for page 3. Okay, take care. Bye.